Is hacking always an act of cybercrime, or can it serve a greater good? This question might have crossed your mind once or twice. Let's delve into it. Hacking, a term often associated with cybercrime, isn't always nefarious. There exists a dichotomy within the hacking world: ethical hacking and malicious hacking. Now, what sets them apart? It's all about intent and consent. Ethical hacking, or white hat hacking, is conducted with permission and aims to identify and fix vulnerabilities. It's like a health checkup for digital systems. On the flip side, malicious hacking, often carried out by black hat hackers, is unauthorized, with an intent to compromise systems for personal gain or harm. In this digital age where data is the new gold, ethical hackers play a crucial role. They are the cybersecurity knights safeguarding our digital fortresses from cyber threats. In the right hands, hacking can be an essential tool for securing digital systems. Ethical hacking, also known as penetration testing, involves legally breaking into computers and devices to test their security. It's a fascinating field, a blend of technical expertise, creative problem solving, and ethical responsibility. But what does the process of ethical hacking actually look like? Let's break it down into 3 easy-to-understand steps: information gathering, vulnerability assessment, and exploitation. Our first step, information gathering, is all about reconnaissance. It's like being a detective, gathering clues and piecing together a picture of the target system. An ethical hacker might look at public information about a company, its employees, its network architecture, and more. They might use tools to map out the network, identify devices, and discover what services are running. The more information an ethical hacker can gather, the better they can understand the system they're about to test. Next comes the vulnerability assessment. This is where the ethical hacker looks for weak spots in the system's defenses. They might use automated tools to scan for known vulnerabilities, or they might manually probe the system, looking for configuration errors, weak passwords, or outdated software. The aim of this step is to identify as many potential points of entry as possible without yet attempting to exploit them. Finally, there's exploitation. This is where the ethical hacker attempts to break into the system using the vulnerabilities they've identified. They might try to gain unauthorized access, disrupt services, or even simulate an attack aimed at stealing sensitive data. The goal here isn't to cause harm, but to demonstrate what a malicious hacker could do if they exploited the same vulnerabilities. It's important to remember that ethical hacking is always done with permission and with the goal of strengthening security, not undermining it. And after the exploitation phase, the ethical hacker will typically work with the organization to patch the vulnerabilities they found, helping to make the system more secure. These steps form the backbone of any ethical hacking operation. And while each operation will be unique depending on the system being tested and the specific vulnerabilities found, these 3 steps provide a solid framework for understanding the process of ethical hacking. Tactics refer to the overall approach and strategy adopted for the hacking process. Now let's delve into some of the most prevalent tactics used in ethical hacking. First up, we have social engineering. This tactic is all about manipulation and deception. It's about understanding human behavior, recognizing its patterns, and exploiting these patterns to gain unauthorized access. Think about a hacker pretending to be a bank representative to extract sensitive information. That's social engineering in action. Next, we come to physical breaches. This tactic might sound somewhat old-fashioned in our digital age, but it's still very much relevant. It involves gaining unauthorized access to a system or a network by physically interacting with it. For instance, a hacker could enter a restricted area to plug in a malicious USB stick or tamper with the hardware. In essence, tactics are the broader strategies that guide the ethical hacking process. Techniques are the specific methods used within the overall tactics. Now let's delve into a few common techniques in ethical hacking. First, we have phishing. This is a technique where hackers impersonate a trustworthy entity to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information. Ethical hackers, however, use this technique to identify potential vulnerabilities, educating users and strengthening security systems. Next, we've got password cracking. It's exactly what it sounds like, trying to determine a system's password. Ethical hackers use this to identify weak passwords that could be easily guessed or brute forced by malicious hackers. Last but not least, we have SQL injection. This is where hackers manipulate a site's database by injecting malicious SQL code. If successful, they can view, modify, and even delete data. Ethical hackers use this technique to identify areas where a website's database might be vulnerable, then work to patch those vulnerabilities. All these techniques are used to exploit vulnerabilities in systems. But remember, the key difference between an ethical hacker and a malicious one lies in their intention. An ethical hacker uses these techniques to find and fix vulnerabilities, while a malicious hacker uses them for personal gain or to cause harm. So as you see, these techniques aren't inherently bad. They're just tools like a hammer or a screwdriver. And just like with any tool, their impact depends on who's wielding them and for what purpose. Techniques are the specific tools and methods used to carry out the hacking process. Procedures refer to the step-by-step process followed in ethical hacking. A well-defined procedure ensures a systematic and thorough approach. The procedures in ethical hacking generally include reconnaissance, scanning, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing tracks. Firstly, reconnaissance is the initial phase where an ethical hacker gathers as much information about the target system as possible. This could include understanding the network structure, identifying active machines, and gathering data on system vulnerabilities. The next procedure is scanning. Ethical hackers use tools to scan the system for specific weaknesses, often using automated software to streamline this process. This phase helps identify potential entry points into the system. Gaining access is the third procedure. Here, the ethical hacker exploits the vulnerabilities discovered in the previous phases to gain access to the target system. The purpose is not to cause harm, but to identify potential risks. Maintaining access is the fourth procedure. This involves making sure that the access gained can be sustained over time. This step is necessary to understand the depth of potential damage a malicious hacker could cause. Finally, clearing tracks is the last procedure. Here, ethical hackers erase the traces of their testing activities, ensuring that the system remains as it was before the ethical hacking process began. Procedures ensure that the ethical hacking process is comprehensive and leaves no stone unturned.